Greetings. My name is Letitia Hensley, and I'm the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Director of Family and Community Engagement. We are excited that you are joining us today and know you will gain great insight from this session. At the conclusion of today's session, please provide feedback so that we can continue to support you with amazing sessions that will be provided throughout the year. Now, without further ado, we'll turn it over to our presenters.
Good afternoon, CMS families. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Family Academy Lunch and Learn session, Families and Whole Child Development. Why is it essential? We are so fortunate to be joined today by Dr. Vanessa Boyles, who is the Director of Student Wellness and Academic Support in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. To begin our day, we are going to go over a few pieces of housekeeping. The first of which is we do have translation services available today by selecting the captions button in the top right-hand corner of the screen. When you select the captions button, you'll see a drop-down that says show live captions. And from there, you will select the spoken language of your choosing. So once again, in the top right, you'll see captions, show live captions, and you'll select from the spoken language of your choosing. Additionally, we want to hear from you today. We are so excited that you are here, and we want to make sure that these sessions are meeting your needs as families. If you have any questions or wonderings throughout today's session, please drop that question in the Q&A. We will be monitoring them throughout today's presentation and have time to answer at the end of the presentation. Additionally, feel free to react and engage with us using those emojis next to the Q&A button labeled react. We love to engage with you and make sure that what is being shared meets your needs, see any new learnings, any wonderings you may have, and make sure that we are supporting you. Lastly, please make sure to provide feedback on today's session. All members of the community that have provided feedback will be entered into a raffle for a $100 Visa gift card. This is the last session to be entered into the April raffle, and we will be announcing and contacting our winner tomorrow on Friday, April 25th. So I will make sure that it is in our Q&A as well. And at this time, we are so excited to turn it over to Dr. Boyles to learn more about developing the whole child.
Good afternoon, everyone. And again, I thank you for spending a little portion of your lunchtime with me learning about whole child development. As Molly stated, my name is Dr. Vanessa Boyles, and I am one of the directors in the Department of Student Wellness and Academic Support here in CMS. In student wellness and academic support, we house all of your counselors, social workers, psychologists, 504 specialists. We look at social emotional learning and development, school-based mental health, our student wellness through nurses and immunizations, and just a whole host of the other parts of our kids outside of academics, which is why we like to call what we're talking about today whole child development, because we do in CMS believe in developing the entire child, not just merely focusing on academics, but whole child development. So I also wanted to tell you that throughout the course of the presentation, there will be words that I use interchangeably that kind of mean the same thing. So I may talk about life skills as a set of skills. I may use the term universal skills that students and adults have, as well as social skills or emotional skills. So all of those words are meaning the same thing. So the first activity I want us to do is for you to think about a young person in your life. And this could be your child, your grandchild, a student or a young person that goes to church with you or lives in your community, any young person that comes to mind. And then think about, what do you hope that they will learn and or be able to do to be successful in their future? So what things do you want that young person to learn to be successful or be able to do to be successful? And if you're able to, I'd love to see you drop some of your responses in the Q&A as you're thinking about those things. I'm going to give you just a second to think about a very special young person and what do you want them to learn or be able to do to be successful in their future. So some of the things that may come to mind You may want them to be honest. You may want them to be a hard worker. You may think, I want my young person to be kind to other people, be responsible, be a leader, be respectful, have perseverance. Don't quit when things get tough. And so all of these things that we are talking about are the skills that I just mentioned. These are life skills or universal skills. And these are things that are necessary along with a good academic foundation for our young people to be successful in the next phase of their life after school. So when we, our school district, our superintendent has an initiative of 3 E's. I'm not sure if you all have heard about that, but the 3 E's is that the goal of every student upon graduation from high school is that they will either enroll in a secondary, post-secondary situation, enlist in one of the branches of the military, or be employed. And so looking at employment, this slide kind of talks about what employers are looking for. When surveyed, employers are saying that skills, these life skills, these universal skills like problem solving, being able to be a clear communicator, these are equally or even more important sometimes than the technical skills. So we want someone who can walk into the workplace and be an accountant and know all the things that they need to do to be an accountant, but we also want them to have those skills of being hardworking and being honest and kind, being able to work within a team. 80% of employers said that these life skills are becoming increasingly more important to their company's success. And that study was done in 2019. So in order for companies to be successful, we need the employees, which are our young people, to have these life skills. And 51% of human resources or HR professionals say that our educational systems aren't really doing what we need to do to help address the shortage in the skills that we have. And again, we see problem solving, critical thinking, innovation skills, and communication skills. So when employers are looking at their job applications, they are looking for these specific skills because research is showing that these are just as important as the skills to actually do the job, and it's going to improve their company morale and success, and the longevity of young people's employment. Multiple surveys show that talent professionals believe that social skills, these life skills, universal skills, are transferable. So we learn them in school, we're practicing them K through 12, and then those same skills are utilized when young people move out into one of the 3 E's. Not just employment, but also these skills are necessary when enlisting, as well as enrolling in post-secondary education. And think about these things from a student perspective. What are students saying that they need? What are students saying that they need to be successful? What are these very important skills that our kiddos need? So when we listen to the voices of our young people, we see referrals and we see incidents in school that kind of tie in to some of the lack of those skills that we were just talking about. The ability to wait their turn in line, their ability to kind of work out problems, those problem solving skills when they have a disagreement with a classmate. How well are they able to manage their emotions and work out those difficulties that they're having? And also making good decisions. Is this what I need to be doing right now? And what is the consequence of this choice going to have on me later? So when we think about competencies or the buckets of skills that fall into whole child development or these life skills, universal skills that I was speaking of, there are 5 general buckets of skills that most people recognize. And this comes from an organization known as CASEL, and they're called the CASEL 5. These competencies can be taught and applied from childhood all the way up to adulthood and across cultural contexts. I also want to kind of go back and say, when we think about whole development, life skills, universal skills, emotional skills, while our students need those and we need to be teaching them to them as educators, These skills are also important for us as adults. So as we go through each of these buckets, kind of think about yourself as an adult and how well you're doing with each of these competencies. So in the first bucket, we have self-awareness, and it's just like what it sounds like. Self-awareness is understanding your own emotions and thoughts and how they influence your behavior. So it's kind of two-pronged. Do I understand that I have a tendency to get upset and anxious when I feel like I'm being rushed? If my teacher tells me I only have this much time to do something, that might make me a little anxious. And then how does that display in my behavior? It may make me be a little withdrawn. I may be a little snappy. I may be a little irritable because of that. So we want to start teaching kiddos from a young age, and this starts at home, of being aware of their emotions and how their emotions play into what happens next. I tell kids all the time, there are no such thing as bad emotions. We all have them. It is, how does your behavior respond to the emotion that you have, and how well are you doing with understanding and managing that so that that behavior does not get you into a situation where you're in trouble. And again, like I said, as adults, let's think about, how do we do with self-awareness? How aware are we of our feelings, our emotions, things that trigger us? And when we get triggered, what is the response that happens after we're triggered? And what can we do to make sure that we don't have negative consequences based on those feelings? The next bucket is self-management. So kind of in line with self-awareness, once we have an understanding of our thoughts and emotions and our feelings, how well are we able to manage those in different situations? So the example I gave before, if I know that when I'm rushed, it makes me feel anxious, how can I manage those anxious feelings? If I'm sitting in class and I'm not able to escape, what can I do to manage those feelings that are coming up inside of me? And this is where it's a great opportunity to kind of teach self-coping skills, self-soothing skills, those deep breaths that you need to take to kind of reset. Maybe asking for a break to take a short walk. In our classrooms, we encourage our teachers to have a cool down corner where students can maybe go to a separate desk. I've seen some where they have markers and paper set up so students can draw. There may be little journals so they can kind of write down what they're feeling and get all those feelings out. Some of them have like sand trays where students can kind of play in the sand tray until they get their bodies regulated again. Other schools even have Zen rooms where you can go into a classroom and it's set up to have yoga mats where they can engage in yoga. There's soft music playing, the lights are dim. There are different mantras and affirmations that students can say. So all of that goes into self-management, with the goal being, I'm having these emotions and I want to make sure that I'm able to manage them so that they don't come out in a way that's not going to be productive. The next bucket is social awareness. So social awareness is our ability to understand the world around us and the perspectives of others. So in a school setting, social awareness is, how is my behavior, how are the things that I'm saying or doing impacting those around me, the other kids? How does my desk mate feel when I blurt out the answer and they had their hand raised? Or how does my friend feel on the playground when we're playing with the ball and I'm hogging the ball and they never get an opportunity to play with the ball? So being able to empathize, see things from another person's perspective, and it also, it says including diverse backgrounds. So that's where, in school settings, we really talk about diversity and how what is appropriate in one situation may not be appropriate in someone else's culture, and how might they interpret that, and how do we put all those pieces together so that we can coexist comfortably. And again, this is a situation where we as adults need to take that into account too. How well are we doing with being socially aware as adults, as we parent our children, as we teach our children in the classroom setting, as we work with youth and young adults in the community or church? How socially aware are we as adults, and model that to our young people? The next bucket is relationship skills. And so this is where students and adults learn how to establish and maintain positive and supportive relationships. So how this relationships can be friendships, your best friend in elementary moving into, dating relationships when you're in high school, marriages for us as adults, other relationships, your sibling relationship, your relationship as an adult with your parent, your relationships with your coworkers. So how well do we navigate those relationships, and what skills are necessary to make sure that we can work together in relationship with others? And then finally, we see responsible decision making. And this is the ability to make caring and constructive choices for ourselves and others. And I like those words, caring and constructive choices, not necessarily good or bad choices, but was my choice caring? Is what I chose to do or say show kindness? And is it constructive? Is it leading me towards the goals that I have for myself as a youth, a young adult, a high school student, or an adult? How well am I able to think things through? When I was in a building and I was an administrator, we talked a lot about this. When students had gotten into trouble, we would kind of walk backwards through, was that a responsible decision? The choice that you made, where are you now as a result of that choice? What could you have done differently? Was it a kind choice? Was it a caring choice? Was it the right choice for the situation? So again, as adults, we also need to make sure that we are using responsible decision making and modeling these skills. I can't say that enough. We want to make sure that students see us, or young people see us as adults, modeling what we want for them. And sometimes that includes us walking them through it verbally. Hey, I'm feeling really upset and anxious today, so I think I'm going to take a moment and self-soothe. What I'm choosing to do to self-soothe is I'm going to take 5 deep breaths. I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to think of an affirmation that helps me to calm down. And when I feel my heart rate slow down, I'm going to return to what I was doing. So you're giving the student or the young person a verbal walkthrough of what it is that you're doing. So they're having that model and they see you doing it, but they also are hearing the directions. And so hopefully when they're in that situation, they can remember, hey, my mom or my coach or my teacher, when she got upset, this is what she did to calm her body down and to manage herself and to make a responsible decision. We love research here in the district, so I wanted to also talk to you from the lens of not just what we think, but what we know based on research. And research is able to confirm the validity and the importance of these life skills, these universal skills, these social skills. When we are given our young people the opportunity to acquire and build upon and make better these skills, that is really an important key to their future readiness. As I said earlier, these skills are transferable. So what we see in elementary, middle, and high school, and what we're able to help them develop, those are transferable as they move into the world, into the workplace, into college or trade school settings, into the military, into families. We want to see these skills generalized. So students who have strong skills in these universal skills, life skills, social skills, they're more likely to reach milestones like high school graduation. We start in elementary school and we're teaching our young people how to be self-aware, how to make responsible decisions, how to cultivate relationships and be socially aware. We're pushing them towards high school graduation, post-secondary enrollment, and graduation. So hopefully interwoven in there are the skills of perseverance. When things get difficult and when they get hard, you don't quit, you keep going, as well as stable and full-time employment. It's helping them to get employed, and it's helping them to stay on the jobs that they get. We also know that developing these skills early reduces the likelihood of future violent behavior, crime, and substance abuse. So if we can build up those life skills and those universal skills, we'll see less of students and young adults reverting to violence, crime, and substance abuse, because most of the time those are coping strategies. And if we can teach them better coping strategies, we can see a reduction in making not responsible decisions to cope with whatever life is giving them. Additionally, we see that research supports strong universal skills equate to better academic achievement. And here in the school setting, we always want to shine the light towards academic achievement. We want to see all of our students successfully matriculate K through 12 and graduate, and of course, move into one of those 3 E's: be employed, be enlisted, or be enrolled. So when we do whole skill development K through 12 and it's consistent, so all of our schools are doing something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the same exact program, the same exact lessons, but if students are consistently getting whole child skill development, it does have a positive impact on student achievement. And things that we have seen is that students graduate and they have higher percentage points on exit exams and academic assessments that they're taking. Brain science, when we look at how the brain is functioning in students that have good life skills and good universal skills, we see that academic learning and success is closely intertwined, and that brain development is really moving them forward in the right direction. We also know that academic instruction makes the life skills connections deeper if we can integrate that into the core instruction. So we don't always want to have just a separate feelings group, or we're talking about honesty and working hard in isolation. But anytime teachers are able to integrate that into whatever lesson they're teaching, it really hits home and it really stays with students longer. So finding ways to connect mathematics, whatever that lesson is, to relationship skills or self-management, or connecting history lessons to being responsible, being kind and respectful, really helps students to grasp those concepts a little bit better. And years after students participate in this whole child development in the school setting, we do see those higher academic percentile points compared to peers who did not receive the same level of instruction. And so we always want to make sure that, again, this is not just something we do in school, but parents and families, you all have the power to help us integrate these skills in the home as well. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. So in CMS, how do we support whole child development? And there are a number of ways that we do. So on the right side of your screen, you'll see Caring School Community is an actual curriculum. We utilize this curriculum in our elementary schools, so K through 5. It has books, it has videos. There are things that teachers can actually use, curriculum that teach directly these skills. It shows teachers how to do morning circles where students are able to talk through their feelings and work on these life skills: relationship, decision making, being responsible, being respectful. Capturing Kids' Hearts is a character-based program that we are rolling out. All of our secondary schools have been trained in Capturing Kids' Hearts, and next year we'll start training our elementary schools. But the training that occurs with Capturing Kids' Hearts starts with the adults, and it teaches the adults about the importance of culture and climate in the classroom and in the school setting, so that students can be a fertile soil for those life skills when we start to teach them. So you'll hear your students talking about having social contracts where they talk as a class. How do you want to be treated? How do I want to be treated? How do we want to handle violations of how we said we wanted to treat each other? You'll hear us encourage teachers to give affirmations, to call students by their name, to make sure you're greeting students at the door when classes start. So just those things to build a positive culture so that students can find trusted adults and be at a better place to learn when they come into school. We also employ student services staff, and as I mentioned, I am one of the directors in student wellness and academic support, and these are some of the staff that work within our department. So every school has there are school psychologists that are assigned to every school. School psychologists work multiple schools. So they may be in 2 schools, sometimes 3. School counselors are campus-based. So every school has a counselor that's dedicated full-time to that campus. And this year, our school social workers are on an itinerant model, which means they also have multiple schools so that every school has a school social worker. By that person being itinerant, it means that they may not be there every day, but they are there at least once per week. And these individuals have the capability to help with teaching and developing the social skills, helping students practice the calming and the coping mechanisms, checking in with students, developing plans if students need extra support. So we have these people across the district that are there to support your young people. And then we also have a lot of other resources that are available for our teachers, our student services personnel, our administrators, to support that whole child learning. We want to make sure that while we're developing their academic skills, that we are also developing those life skills that we know we want every young person to have. So what do we want you all as family members to do as it relates to whole child development? So we always encourage you to actively partner with your student's school. So make yourself a partner, see what your school needs, volunteer if you're able to. Next month is Teacher Appreciation. The Teacher Appreciation Week is the first week in May, and I know schools would love to have people come out and help support teachers and celebrate them during that week. But come up and just figure out what ways you can partner and be helpful for your student and maybe even other students within the school. We want you guys to incorporate active listening. So breakfast, bedtime routines, make sure you're giving your students the opportunity, your young people, the opportunity to talk and share. There are some questions and things that you can ask them so that they can practice some of these skills. For example, questions like, when was the last time you felt confident? And what contributed to this feeling? What made you feel confident? If you're watching a movie, have you ever felt the way that character felt? Why do you think he feels that way? What would you do if you were in that situation? What makes you feel happy? What makes you feel worried? How can adults help you feel more connected in a variety of spaces? Do you consider yourself to be a leader? So just open-ended questions and giving your young people the opportunity to answer, process, and build upon these life skills. Those are all showing self-awareness. How do you feel? What makes you feel this way? Self-management, you can ask questions about, what do you do when you feel frustrated? How do you handle yourself when you start to feel a little bit overwhelmed? Or social awareness. Tell me about your friendship circle. What are things that you guys like to do together? What are things that your friends like about you? Are they aware of what their friends like about them? Feelings charts. Let me see if you guys can see this. Hopefully it went over to the feelings chart screen, but this is just you can get a feelings chart online anywhere. But what I love about a feelings chart is it helps to broaden the emotional vocabulary, because we tend to say, when someone asks you how you feel, we tend to say we're happy, we're sad, or we're mad. And there are a plethora of feelings that we have. And I love that charts like this teach students other words. So maybe you're not just happy, maybe you feel loved. Maybe you feel super excited because it's the weekend and you know you're gonna get to go to the park on Saturday. Maybe you feel silly today, like you feel like you got the wiggles and there, bubbles in your stomach. Maybe you're not always mad. Maybe you're frustrated by something. And what is it that's making you frustrated? Maybe you feel stressed. Maybe you're actually anxious or worried. So utilizing some of these charts and helping expand the vocabulary of your young person. We also want to make sure that we have problem-solving spaces that we design for our young people, or put them in spaces where they have to solve problems. They're thinking through things. We're at the grocery store. I really needed milk for the recipe. There's no more milk. What do we do? How would you go about solving that problem? Or there's traffic going home this way. What else could we do so that we don't get caught up in the traffic? Or maybe for some of our younger students, you could utilize problem solving. A lot of the shows that kids watch, there's usually a problem involved and the person will work it out. So allowing them to watch a show and then asking them afterwards, hey, did you see that that person had this problem? How did they work it out? Is that what you would have done? Is there anything differently that you would have done? So things like this that help your students create those problem solving spaces. Also, you can use shows like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which, if you're old like me, you know that that is just the recycled Mr. Rogers. Shows like Bluey, and then shows that are appropriate for secondary students. When my daughter was in middle school, we would watch, just sitcoms and things like that. But I would find ways to ask her questions about whatever sitcom we were watching. Like, well, look at her face. How do you think she feels right now, based on her face? Or this happened between her and her friend. Is that something that's ever happened to you before? But just giving your young person the opportunity to talk through things with you, and you have an open and active listening ear. So I have done quite a bit of talking, and now I will allow time for any questions. So if you have any questions that you want to place in the Q&A, please put them in there at this time. I would love to address any questions that you have. And Molly, I can't see the Q&A, so if there is a question in there, if you wouldn't mind sharing it with me so that I could respond.
Absolutely. And thank you, Dr. Bowles, for such a great presentation. The first question that we do have is, I'm a big book learner. Are there any authors or books that you would recommend parents read with frameworks for parenting for whole child development?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to have to pull, I think we have some resources listed somewhere. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but let me write this down so that I can share it with Molly, and we will publish this. So authors and books for whole child. That's an excellent question.
Absolutely. I agree. Thank you.
Definitely get that list for you, and I'll make sure that it has some that are like elementary appropriate and then middle and high appropriate as well.
Families, that list will be published with the recording of today's session on the Family Academy on Demand. I'm going to go ahead and place the link for the Family Academy on Demand. It is located on the CMS website. If you would like to receive the list directly, I'm happy to send it to you. If you would like to put your email in the feedback form when you submit your feedback today, I will make sure that list goes directly to your email box as well. At this time, I am seeing no additional questions, Dr. Bowles.
Okay, well, again, I thank everyone for spending a little bit of your lunchtime here with us. You can always, reach out to me if you have any additional questions. You can, find my information. I don't know if I need to drop it in the chat, but you can find my information on CMS under Student Wellness and Academic Support. We would love to support you in any way with you and your young person. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Oh, I think there's one more slide. Do I need to show this? Oh, yes, so that they can, is the bit.ly inside of the chat?
Yes, ma'am. So I do have the feedback form has been added to the Q&A, as well as Dr. Bowles' email for contact for any additional questions or follow-up that our families may have. Families, thank you so much for engaging with us today and for learning and exploring whole child development for our families. A very special thank you to Dr. Vanessa Bowles, the Director of Student Wellness, and for her team in supporting our CMS families. The slides will be included within the Family Academy on Demand recording. And if there's any additional support needed, please feel free to let our department know. We are here to support you. And thank you, families, for engaging with us today.